Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for Council President Jones Live from the Table. We have a wonderful discussion today, and we will be starting momentarily. And until we start, just want to make everyone aware, if you have children, you know anyone that has a high school student, tomorrow, starting October 15th, tomorrow, the Office of Detroit City Council President Brenda Jones and the Infinite Scholars Program invite you to a free college scholarship information virtual event via Zoom. They will be able to learn how to finance their college education through public and private scholarships, service, federal student aid, and etc. Also connect with our network of over 400 colleges waiving application fees for our students. So they'll be able to participate in the Detroit Virtual College Fair hosted by the Office of Council President Brenda Jones in November. So save the date in November for November 9th through the 13th. That will be our Detroit Virtual College Fair. But tune in. Don't forget, tomorrow, October 15th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. If you're interested, please register at www.infinitescholar.org. And I do believe I heard Council President Jones' voice. I thought I did.
Excuse me, Ms. Wesley. I believe Mr. Torgo is in the audience. He hasn't been.
Linda, I'm trying to move some people over. Can you, and I do not see Council President Jones as of yet. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So also we have our 2020, we also have our 2020 budget priorities survey going on right now until November 4th. We are asking everyone to please, if you are a Detroit resident, if you will please fill out that survey. It is very, very important. That survey is definitely going to help City Council and our mayor when it is time for the budget. Also, we heard our residents. We do have a call center for those that are not able to use the internet or don't have access to a computer. You can call in to 313-774-5600, 313-774-5600 on Mondays and Wednesdays only from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. until November 4th. But also, feel free to fill out the survey online. I do know that we have been sending it out to our constituents. The mayor and several council members, along with Council President, had a press conference today in regards to the budget priority survey. So please, we're asking everyone, if you need more information about it, please, you may visit the city's website. You may also visit Council President's website at www.detroitmi.gov/Brenda Jones. Also, don't forget, mark your calendars. October 28th is our last Skilled Trades Task Force meeting for this year, for 2020. Again, October 28th, there will be more information forthcoming from 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. So we are asking everyone, if you will please join us on October 28th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And always check Council President Jones' Facebook page at www.facebook.com/CP Brenda Jones for any updates that we are speaking of at this time. Our formal session is always on Tuesday, starting at 10 a.m. We are still working from home, so join our formal sessions virtually at 10 a.m. I do.
Hold on. I'm talking to you on the phone. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. I am not muted. Everyone, just give me one moment. Council President is joining in now. I'm sorry.
Okay, excellent. So we will be starting momentarily. We had a great Military and Veterans Task Force meeting yesterday. That meeting is always on the second Tuesday of every month. The next Military and Veterans Task Force meeting will be on Tuesday, November 10th. Don't forget, we will have veterans. The Veterans Parade is going to be Sunday, November 8th. It is going to be, it'll be virtual, but then there'll be some attendees at the parade as well. Again, that parade is going to be November 8th. The Military and Veterans Task Force meeting will be again Tuesday, November 10th from 3 o'clock until 4 p.m. Don't forget, everyone, on November 3rd, please go out to vote. Very, very important. Please go out to vote. Kim, do you have any update that you might want to provide before Council President comes on? Anything happening in the Department of Neighborhoods, in the community that we can share with our audience?
Other than we will definitely be still hosting Halloween in the D. So we will have our Halloween at the police precincts, and each district will also have one fire station that will be passing out candy. It will be a drive-by, not a get out and walk around. We are still observing the social distancing and the COVID, but we are still trying to make sure that our children have a good Halloween. So we're trying to put us together. So that was the biggest update that we have right now. So thank you for the opportunity.
Great, thank you. Thank you, it's always a pleasure. Nicole, how are things at Detroit at work?
Thanks so much for asking, Linda. All is well. We are excited to build on the progress with FCA that we reported on when Council President hosted us was that last week, Tuesday, maybe?
Yes, there was October 6th.
October 6th, yeah. So it was really good to talk with Council President and the public about what's happening at FCA. We're up to more than 2,600 offers extended, and all but 3 have accepted.
All right, excellent. Yeah,
Good afternoon.
Oh,
I know you guys can't see me. I am having technical difficulties trying to get it together, but at least you can hear me and at least we can get started. I am on a totally different computer and I am trying to get it together on my other computer, and I do apologize for the lateness, but we are here and we can begin as I work on my other computer so you all can see me. Again, I am your Detroit City Council President, Brenda Jones, welcoming you to another segment of Live from the Table. We are also live on Facebook at www.facebook.com/CP Brenda Jones. And again, I want to thank you for joining me this afternoon for a roundtable discussion on the Amazon State Fairgrounds Development Deal. I am happy to say I am joined today by Ellie Torgo from the Sterling Group. Good afternoon, Mr. Torgo. And you, okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today.
And thank you for joining us. Good afternoon, Arthur Jemison from the Mayor's Office. I see him waving. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Raymond Diggs from the Mayor's Office.
Good afternoon, Madam President.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Nicole Sherrod Freeman from Workforce Development, the Director. And good afternoon to you, Ms. Nicole Sherrod Freeman.
Good afternoon, President Jones. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And in a minute, you'll be saying it's a pleasure to be able to see you because you're going to see me before this is over with. Good afternoon, Kim Tandy, our District 2 Manager. Good afternoon, Kim Tandy.
Good afternoon, Madam President. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here with us. And good afternoon, Karen and Frank Hammer from the State Fairgrounds Development Coalition. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And Karen, you're not mute, you're muted.
Yeah, I see her trying to talk to me. I can see you guys just can't see me.
Good afternoon, President Jones. Thank you for having me.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon, Attorney Tanya Myers-Phillips, State Fairgrounds Development Coalition.
Good afternoon, Madam President. Thank you so much for having us today and hosting this discussion.
And thank you for being here. Good afternoon, Al Martin, State Fairgrounds Development Coalition. And he is muted too, and we can't hear him. That's all right. We hear you trying to talk to us. We're gonna wait and move it forward. Good afternoon, Lauren Hood, Vice Chair of the City Planning Commission, and also my appointment. Good afternoon, Ms. Hood. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Council President. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and welcome to all of you. And thank you to those that are watching, those are listening. We're happy to have you. And again, thank you for your patience. And I'm going to begin. Ray, if you can just please begin by just giving us a brief overview of the project.
Thank you, Madam President, and good afternoon, community members. For those who may have missed it, my name is Ray Diggs. I work in the Mayor's Office on the Economic Development team. Just at a really high level, the proposed development of the State Fairgrounds includes the land sale of the remaining 138 acres that are city-owned at the State Fairgrounds, the former State Fairgrounds. It also includes the development of a new 3.8 million square foot logistics facility that is planned to house the operations of an Amazon distribution center. The deal also includes the creation of a minimum of 1,200 jobs. And under the terms of the land sale agreement, Amazon has agreed to collaborate with Detroit at Work to ensure that Detroiters get opportunities for those jobs. The deal also includes the construction of a new transit center that will be located on the subject property. And significantly, this deal does not include any tax abatements or public subsidies. And so that's sort of a summary of the deal at a really high level.
Okay, thank you so much. And it's good to have Ellie on here with us, Ellie Torgo. And Ellie is I'm going to ask if everyone can mute themselves until we come to you so that we won't hear the background. Thank you so very much. Ellie is the developer. And Ellie, I know you are normally required to adhere to the executive order that requires 51% of the construction jobs that go to Detroiters. You have agreed to commit to that. Can you just talk about how you plan to accomplish this?
Great. Yes. So that is correct, Madam President. We have voluntarily agreed to follow the executive order, and as we, like all our projects in Detroit, when we go through our bidding and awarding process, it is a part of our contract with our subcontractors that they agree to work within the confines of the executive order. So as we, we're the sort of developer, as we bring in subcontractors to do the work, they are all required as well to make sure that their companies work within the confines of the executive order.
Thank you. And like we said, you agreed to confirm to the executive order, because I know because you did not receive the tax abatements and all of that, you did not have to follow the executive order, but you guys have just agreed to follow that executive order. And so I want to say thank you for that. And I know that you all have had a conversation with skilled trades in regards to the executive order, in regards to hiring the construction trades in the skilled trades labor movement. And so I want to just say thank you for having that meeting along with the skilled trades.
Thank you for that kind words.
Thank you. So, and now I'm going to just briefly go over to Arthur Jemison. And I know that Mr. Jemison, you have been working alongside with them. Can you talk about how many projects actually employ the 51% of the workforce rather than just paying the fine or adding the cost of the fine to the development cost?
I think so. Every project that has a city funded incentive or contract associated with it has to adhere to those rules. Because this project doesn't receive a subsidy, in order for the rules to apply, they would have to voluntarily accept them, which they agreed to do. Any project over $3 million that has a contract with the city is subject to that rule. So it would be the number of projects that are over 3 million. I would say that most people come close to or meet the 51%, or they pay a fine. And I'd say it's only on specific kinds of projects where there's steel or other kinds of relatively unusual construction work where it's really difficult to find Detroiters. Do people miss the milestone in a gross way? That will be my answer.
Okay, because I know that at one point, one of the concerns was there was not sufficient Detroiters to meet the skilled trades, but now are you finding that there are sufficient Detroiters available?
So I'm probably not the subject matter expert on that. I would probably say that for laborers, rough carpentry, there's a lot of trades where we do have enough Detroiters to fill those jobs. There's others like steel construction, and others where it's less. We have fewer Detroiters in those fields. So I actually think that maybe Nicole would have better information about this than me, but that's been what developers have reported to me, is that the hardest fields to provide folks are in sort of excavation and road work and in steel construction.
Okay, thank you. I am going to go to you now, Nicole Shirai Freeman, and I want to just ask you in regards to the post-construction when the facility opens, and I want to just ask you about the jobs. 1,200 jobs are anticipated to be available post-construction. The development agreement says that there'll be collaboration to fill these jobs. What are the goals and the metrics that are being put in place to try to ensure that the 1,200 jobs are filled by Detroiters?
Yes, thank you for the question, Council President. I will tell you where we are in discussion about the 1,200 jobs and collaborating with Amazon. I'm not sure if I've shared this in the past, but what we are pushing for with Amazon at this point is a partnership through which the collaboration would be more than it was when it was written into the purchase agreement, right? And by that, I mean collaboration, as you regularly point out to us, is a pretty loosely defined word. And at the time that the purchase agreement was written, it meant they would get to know us and work with us and understand what we offered. With your encouragement, quite frankly, and some others on council, we've been really encouraging Amazon more and more to get to understand the return on investment that Detroit at Work offers. And so right now that looks like leveraging our database of Detroiters. And there are thousands of Detroiters who are Detroit at Work customers. who are interested in Amazon kinds of jobs, whose names we'll be able to readily provide to Amazon. We don't have a process yet, but that's what we're aiming for. And part of that process, Council President, will be to figure out how do we measure our progress on that.
Thank you so much for that, Nicole. And so I am really requesting that the definition of in collaboration be expanded to include the goals in the metrics to ensure the guaranteed steps are taken to attract and to hire Detroiters. I think that in collaboration is a little too vague, and it does not actually provide the solid goals in the metrics that we need to take. But I truly appreciate your efforts in working with Amazon regarding the 1,200 jobs. And I'm really adamant about requesting that we have a percentage of the post-construction jobs be set aside for Detroiters only, because I feel that these are non-skilled labor jobs that are paying $15 per hour with benefits. And these are jobs that can easily be performed by the average Detroiter. Yet that stipulation just still has not been agreed to. So I'm going to ask you or either Mr. Jemison, if you can just, and even you, Mr. Torgo, if you can just talk about why there can't be a commitment in the agreement to require post-construction jobs to be set aside for Detroiters.
So I guess I would start by, and I'd let Ellie come in with either corrections or updates to say, our business arrangement is with the developer and owner, future owner of the property. It has a lot of stipulations, but it doesn't govern necessarily the relationship that they have with Amazon. They have not in any of the other 4 facilities that have been cited in this area in Southeast Michigan or even in Grand Rapids. They've not made any commitments like that. It's not been their organization's business practice to do that. What they have done and are proposing to do here in Detroit is this project is one where the city's going to receive $16 million for the sale of the property. And we are not providing any subsidy. So in all the other places that they have done Amazon facilities in Southeast Michigan, they have, those cities have given, $10 to $15 million worth of cash subsidy to encourage Amazon to be here. So in our case, we're getting $16 million. In those other cases, they're literally giving them $16 million in some cases. The one thing that we have been able to include in the PA is a penalty wherein the developer will pay an additional $2 million if the 1,200 jobs do not come forward. So I understand that there's a desire to have Amazon make a special commitment to Detroit that's different than, but they have never made a commitment to any other part of the state. And they've never participated in these kinds of proceedings before, but we are getting the benefit of having a deal that actually makes cash for the city on transaction and makes up to $4 million a year in new tax revenue for our general fund available each year. So I recognize that we do not at this time have a commitment to jobs. We have done lots of things to triangulate this though, so that the benefits to the city are clear and significant. Ellie may have something to add. I'm sorry.
Ellie, did you want to add anything?
Well, I think Arthur, you summed it up well, and I think maybe yeah.
And I guess, one of the things that I look at and I hear and I understand that we're not providing subsidies to them, to Amazon, but one of the concerns that I have is we're often we are often compared to other municipalities and to other states. And I always say Detroit is totally different from all the other municipalities, all of the other states. Number one, the main reason Detroit is different is because we have had the largest bankruptcy in the entire company. I'm sorry, in the entire country. Detroit has had the municipality has had the largest bankruptcy. And we have had so many of our retirees affected by that bankruptcy, not to mention what is going on now with COVID-19. As we know, COVID-19 hit Detroit harder than it hit any other municipality. And with COVID-19 hitting Detroit as hard as it hit any other municipality, the health and economic impact have definitely hit Detroit extremely bad. And I feel because of those two reasons, we stand totally different from any of the other municipalities that you have named. And also often people compare us with other municipalities, which I don't think we can even be compared. Detroit is a majority minority city who I feel that our residents are often marginalized, and we have to do everything we can to employ our residents in the city of Detroit. And until we are all employed, and until we are all having living wages, until the average Detroiter is prioritized in every deal, in every contract, in every matter, I just say every project, that Detroit jobs matter. And it's just so important to me. And I was expressing that the other day, being on council 15 years and seeing many things happen in those 15 years that I have seen it happen. I just think it's just important to be able to get something in writing for our residents and for our constituents in the city of Detroit when it comes to Detroiters. And in case you all can't tell, I'm very passionate about jobs for Detroiters. And then I'm also very passionate about the community having a voice in decisions that will impact where they live, work, and where they play. So, having said all of that, let me just say we are also joined by members of the State Fairground Development Coalition, Karen, Frank, Tanya, and Al. Good afternoon to you all. And I know that there are several concerns that you have with the development deal as well. But for the sake of time, let's just talk about a couple of them. I want to say that I believe one of the larger concerns involves the proposed transit center and the development's environmental impact on the neighborhood. If you can just share your issues in these two areas.
If I may suggest, Albert Martin is really up on the question of transit, so I'd like to hand over the floor to him. Albert, Al, are you there?
I hope you can hear me now, Frank and
Yes.
Madam President.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. First of all, Madam President, thank you for having this forum. The Transit Center is really a very integral part of the operation. The removal of the bus shelters from their current location has made it necessary, and that removal is due to the fact that the access to the warehouse, the Amazon property, from Woodward Avenue, 25% of the truck traffic will access and egress through the Woodward entrance. That means that the transit area and the bus shelters must be relocated. We are looking at a proposal that establishes a transit center, and that's a very positive step. We must, however, make sure that all of the appropriate Title VI laws are followed. And it is our understanding that those will be followed. So we would just like to have complete transparency, work with the developers, make sure the transit riders are heard, and that we consider what they say. Madam President, this must be done prior to the planning, because the hearing just may give some information that must be incorporated into the process.
And okay, and I can speak to the environmental questions, Madam President.
Yeah.
And again, I thank you very much for engaging us in this forum. There are two aspects to the environmental concerns. One is immediate in regards to the neighborhoods adjacent to the fairgrounds. And just as Amazon knows that they will be employing 1,200 workers, they will also have an estimate of how many 18-wheel diesel trucks will be entering and exiting the facility. Keep in mind that it will be an operation that goes 24/7, 363 days a year. They know that their operations will require a certain amount of diesel traffic in and out of that site. The diesel pollutants are present an extreme hazard to the surrounding neighborhoods and for Detroit in general. You can think about ozone days in the summer, and as Detroit warms up, we will have many more of them. And while we get instructed to not operate our mowers, or we get instructed to not fill our tanks until the end of the day, you can bet that those diesel trucks will keep on coming. So the question of the pollution is the first concern. We know that the city is now talking about engaging in a study, but we have not heard what they will do after the study shows results that are hazardous to Detroit residents in terms of asthma, breathing problems, heart disease, cancer, etc. That's going to exact a price on our neighbors. The other aspect has to do with the question of the climate and the climate crisis and Detroit's role within it. We have a mayor, and Mayor Duggan, that is a climate mayor. We have a sustainability agenda, and we believe that Amazon is promising to be a good resident or facility at the site, talking about having renewable energy exclusively by 2025 and a carbon-free site by 2040, or carbon-free company by 2040. We think those parameters, those benchmarks should be included in the purchase agreement, just like the $15 an hour is included in the purchase agreement, just like the 1,200 jobs is included in the purchase agreement. We must mandate that not only for Amazon, but the entire 142 acres if we're going to do our contribution to reduce emissions that are warming the planet.
Okay, thank you so much. Did Arthur or Ray, did you want to address any of the concerns that they have?
Sure, I'd like to if I could. I was involved in the Detroit Sustainability Action Agenda that you're referencing. I'm not aware of any development agreement that the city's entered into that has required that private parties in their private developments agree to meet any of the requirements of those of that agenda. That agenda, to the extent it talks about buildings, it primarily talks about city-owned buildings or buildings where the city is making a capital contribution. So I don't see the nexus between the requirements that are being proposed and the project. Although I do appreciate that you guys have read it and are up on it. We have made a commitment through study to make sure that we identify the the baseline today, how it might change in the event that the truck traffic creates, how we project it to happen, how it actually does happen after phase one is done. And we've committed to make that information available so that as any future development is considered, people who are participating in the public process have data they need to say, this data suggests that we need to have less, this data suggests we need to do something different. All those things are going to be in the hands of community advocates. We've also made a commitment to study whether or not we can incorporate the existing historic buildings into the transit center, either in whole cloth or through relocation, or using elements of the buildings so that the heritage of the site is being maintained. So that's going to go into the work of the transit center. And I think we have the capacity to do more than one thing at a time here and conduct that study over the next 90 days. It's going to be done by my department along with the Detroit Building Authority and probably third-party experts to make sure that we're getting the best historic and other analyses that we can so that we have the best shot of meeting our goals with those buildings. But I hear the concerns that folks have raised. We've tried to hear them over the last 11 community meetings and make changes to respond to what we think are the substantive questions that they've appropriately asked.
Could I add just a bit on environment and transit as well? Some elements that I think are critical. I certainly support and join in with my colleagues and advocates across the city that want transit equity and who want to make sure that Detroiters' health and safety is protected in this agreement. The purchase agreement is what's binding here. We've seen the PowerPoint presentations the administration has set forth. We've heard promises. We've even seen some draft language for consideration in city council resolutions, but none of those elements are binding on the developer or Amazon. And we need all parties to agree and adhere to these terms in order to make sure that our interests as Detroit residents are protected. And right now, the purchase agreement does not incorporate any of the things, any of the promises being mentioned here. They're absent from the purchase agreement. And as to the transit center, I find it interesting that, there's not there's not a specification in the agreement of where this transit center must be located. We know that from discussions, we know where Amazon wants it located, where it's beneficial for Amazon, but the city of Detroit has to have a mutual agreement with the developer on where to put our transit center. We don't even have protections as to the size of the transit center. We have language that says it can be up to 2.7 acreage. So we don't really know what we're going to get and or where it's going to be located. Also in terms of transparency, we've seen an artistic rendering, but there are many questions about whether $7 million can purchase or can build a state-of-the-art transit center. What are we really going to be able to afford for $7 million? And if the cost exceeds $7 million, will the city of Detroit and taxpayers be on the hook for that? And in terms of the environment, none of the environmental protections are provided for in the purchase agreement. I've seen PowerPoint presentations where there's one berm or basically trees lined along State Fair. Even that's a very specific design that's needed, and you need more berms than one little space along State Fair to really counter the diesel truck emissions. So it's not a question of if Detroiters' health will be impacted. There are multiple studies out there that show the impact of residents living and working in the shadow of diesel truck emissions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's not a question of if, it's a question of when who's going to make residents whole when people start to become sick. And we view that as a hidden cost the city will bear. And, if Amazon and the developer, would adhere to what they're saying in terms of being good, responsible corporate citizens, then those gold star standards, like electric vehicles, like an adequate berm, like air monitors and air filters, like a real penalty that would hold the developer or Amazon and other tenants accountable for adhering to a certain air quality standard. Right now, there are no penalties. There's nothing to hold their feet to the fire, pretty much. And we need those type of protections in the purchase agreement, not in the PowerPoint, in the purchase agreement. And of course, we applaud you, President Jones, for your steadfast commitment to looking out for jobs for Detroiters. But those are additional elements that I think need to be addressed by the administration in terms of the full picture and the full costs in transit and health.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Myers. Did anyone want to comment?
I would say that, we've addressed substantively just about all of the issues that have been raised. And I think there might be disagreements about whether or not who should be held responsible for different things. There might be disagreements about, the means and methods that we're going to use to achieve these goals. But I think we need to, and we have an opportunity to take advantage of this opportunity and turn it into something that Detroiters can, a place that Detroiters can work, a place that's inside the city, that directly benefits the city. And I think we have all the ingredients to make this work. And so I understand your desire to have those requirements bind to one person or the other. Most of the things that we're talking about here are things that are in the city's jurisdiction and have to do with the city's ownership and the city's responsibility. So it seems appropriate that the city should undertake those things. By way of example, if I firmly define the location of the transit center today, it would make it impossible for me to, in a sincere way, conduct the historic analysis that we've offered, because the transit center may need to move a few feet or be reconfigured in a way in order to make it meet the other proposed goals that people involved in this discussion have identified. So I think we've tried to take each of the comments that have been made as seriously as possible in the spirit of actually going forward with the development that creates jobs and sets and puts in motion all these other opportunities. So I accept your critiques, and I would just offer that I think our job as the city is to say, hearing the critiques and hearing the concerns, how do we put that together in a way that allows the development to go forward and create the economic benefit? We think we have a lot of those things, and we appreciate the chance to hear more that you've offered today.
Okay, I see your hand, Ms. Hammer. And no, you haven't had an opportunity to speak, so I'm going to give you an opportunity to go ahead on and speak.
Yes, I just had a couple of additions in the transit component. The city has to also consider transit riders as part of whom will be exposed to the emissions from the 18-wheelers, because they have to wait for buses and spend some time there. They are not the same as residents. And also, the residents themselves are giving up some things in order for this development to occur. And part of that may be their health. And I think if it's the city's responsibility, the city should put in place some mitigation and compensation possibilities for the nearby residents. And it might include a dedicated fund for the neighborhoods nearby to help with not only their health, but their housing and their safety.
Mr. Jemison?
I would just offer, Ms. Hammer, that the a couple of comments. So the callers and the authors of letters to the CPC and were over 65% positive for this development, and they were composed very significantly of people who live nearby the development. I think there were allusions in prior resolutions proposed to parks and other improvements in the areas around the facility. We have been working with Member McAllister and Member Benson to further detail those, and including, again, I'm trying to get the materials together now, including elements of a fund that's not unlike what you've proposed. So we've been, again, listening carefully to what people have said and tried to be responsive. Again, we're working quickly, so hopefully you'll have a chance to see that material in the next few hours. But we have been closely working with the people in the neighborhood, and I think that's why the number of letters and the ratio of support to opposition is what it is because neighbors see not only the opportunity to get physical improvements in their neighborhood, but there's other opportunities as well. I mean, something that's hasn't been talked about much is because of legislation that passed through the city council, there's an affordability fund where commercial sales generate, the net commercial sales generate a small amount of 20% of that money goes to housing affordability. There's a lot of eligible uses there, or use eligibility that could benefit the neighborhood around the project in a number of ways. And so I think we'll be talking more about that tomorrow. But we hear you, and I think there's elements of what you're saying that we're making an effort to include.
Let me ask a question of the coalition. And I know that which side, I know that you, the Hammers, live on the west side of the state fairgrounds. Are there people also involved in the coalition that live on the east side of the fairgrounds? What percentage would you say the coalition is of the west side, and what percentage would you say it is of the east side of the state fairground?
Well, I can't speak to percentages, but I can speak to engagement with several churches on the east side, with the State Fair apartments, with the Gricksdale and Penrose communities, with the east side John R. businesses, and with some canvassing throughout, not organized, but canvassing throughout the neighborhoods, not only around the fairgrounds, but south and east.
Okay. All right, thank you. And speaking of engagements, I do want to go to Miss Tandy, and you all know, everyone on here knows how important community engagement is to me, and community outreach. And definitely community engagement and community outreach must be involved and included in a project like this. Ms. Tandy, can you talk about the type of community outreach and engagement that has taken place for this development? And can you just talk about what you have seen as far as the responses from the community?
Sure. And so when we started this, we actually did do some canvassing, and we have at least walked that neighborhood just south and east, at least in the past couple of months, at least 4 or 5 times. We've also talked, and there's a neighborhood association just south of that is forming because of the response and because of their want and need for the Amazon project and development at that site. So the State Fair Neighborhood Association has started, and they've been working together and walking as well. We had 2 in-person, even through COVID, we've had 2 in-person block club meetings in those neighborhoods where we've actually, because we just wanted to make sure that we were touching and talking and seeing people, and so that everybody had that opportunity. We've had several virtual meetings. As a matter of fact, we're going to have another series of virtual meetings for those neighbors to come up to talk about things like parks, because the mayor is committed to making sure that some of that parkland gets put in the neighborhood, because that's what the neighbors have asked for. We've talked about safety and traffic controls and some of those things. We'll have a meeting on that. We're going to talk about revitalization and what comes from this into those communities, because an investment has come there. What we've really heard from our neighbors is that they want to see this investment out there. They want to see those jobs, those 15-hour jobs. There's a lady that lives on Adeline. She actually works for the Shelby Amazon site. And she's been on several calls, and she's come and she's part of the neighborhood coalition that's starting, the State Fair Coalition that's starting. And her comments to some of the responses is that she finds that Amazon to be a very, 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 very clean and healthy employer, and that she's excited about the opportunities for those things to be here. And that when we talk about turnover, that we talk about turnover because most of those plants are put outside of urban cities, and they're not allowed to be there. So our residents that can enjoy those jobs can't get to those sites. Being here on the State Fair and near a transit center, those jobs then can be for Detroiters because it is located close to where they are. A lot of her people, there's 3 other people that live in that area that work for Amazon right now. Now, she is saying she wants to stay where she is because she loves her job and the Shelby plant is great, and that she wants the 1,200 jobs to go to other Detroiters. But there are some that would love to be able to not have to drive way out to Shelby or Romulus or Livonia, but to be able to be right here in the city of Detroit. I've actually not met a resident in that area in all of my walks and all of my talks and all of these meetings that we had that does not want this to be here. There are some concerns about some of the next phases, and we've promised that we will have these same kind of community engagements for them as well. But everybody is really excited about the opportunity for it to be here at the site.
Okay, thank you for that. I was getting ready to ask Ellie a question, and I think he stepped off for a minute, so I will come back to Ellie. Oh, there he is.
I'm here. Sorry,
Ellie,
my video was giving me some trouble, but I'm here.
And I'm still trying to get my internet back up on my other computer so that you guys can see me. I'm working real hard as I'm talking to you. Again, Ellie, I want to thank you for joining us at the last minute. And as a developer, can you just talk about what you see happening as far as the jobs? You talked about the construction. And can you just again briefly talk about the jobs, because Miss Tandy was talking about some of the jobs, some of the people who work in the other locations, and that's one of the concerns that I've heard from some of the people who are concerned that they may not have an opportunity to get these jobs because people will be transferring from other locations and they won't have an opportunity, and so many Detroiters are laid off from their jobs, and totally some of the jobs have closed down completely due to the COVID-19 hit. I don't know if you have had contact where you may briefly be able to talk about some of the jobs that might be available where there won't be bumping rights and all of that.
That's a great question. So first of all, I think it's very important to point out that the reason why Amazon would like to locate their facility here on the state fairgrounds is because of the Detroit employment. They already have a few offices in Detroit. They very much appreciate the Detroiters, and they specifically picked this location because of all the Detroiters that live nearby and that it's accessible to the transit center. I think it's a very important piece that I think needs to be mentioned is, even if there hasn't been a specific commitment for Detroiters, they're coming for the Detroit workforce. It was funny, I think Kim, this lady that you were talking to who works in the Shelby, so they said she doesn't want to leave. She's actually not going to take a job or even request a job in Detroit because she's so happy where she is. So they're not shutting down any facilities, Amazon. They're not moving employees. These are all newly created jobs that they need to fill. I know that they've had some conversation with Nicole Sherrod-Freeman, and they're actually very excited about Detroit at Work and all the benefits. And I think Nicole has done a fantastic job with the administration and with the city council to create a workforce opportunity for Detroiters like they've never seen in any other city or state. So I think we have all the tools they want. They're coming here for the Detroiters. They're not moving people from other facilities, and they are very, very impressed with what we've accomplished at Detroit at Work.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have to save time. I know it's 2:55. I do see your hand, Tanya. I do need to move to Lauren right quick because I've not had an opportunity to go to her. And thank you, Ms. Hood, for being here. I want to just ask you before we go to public questions, because we have quite a few hands raised for public questions. And I know we're going to go past 3, and I'm hoping that my guests can stay past 3 just in case some of the questions are for them. Ellie, how is your schedule looking? Can you hang out a little past 3?
So unfortunately at about 3:05, I have to jump off. I'm really sorry. I thought this was till 3 o'clock sharp, but I'm here for another 5 minutes, and then unfortunately I have to go. Okay, what about you, Mr. Jemison?
I can certainly stay on until about 3:15.
Okay. So I'm gonna go to you right quick, Lauren, and ask you a quick question. And you're the vice chair of the City Planning Commission, and you were the sole no vote when this was before the commission. What would you like to have seen to improve in this development deal?
Well, I have to be honest, my no response wasn't solely about the deal. One thing I would have liked was some assurances that Detroiters would get the jobs, some enforceable means of accountability, like who is the body that's going to be checking to make sure they hired Detroiters? What does that look like longitudinally? Like, it's one thing for a bunch of people to get hired and then not stick around. Who's keeping track of that? So those things were on my mind, but mostly my no vote was about the process. We were asked to push this through with a same day vote after a 7-hour meeting it was 12:30 in the morning. After listening to about 70 public comment, we were expected to vote. We deliberate over projects of much smaller significance over several meetings, and we were expected to make a vote in that one meeting. It got stretched out to 2, but that is still a lot faster than we make decisions on, like I said, projects at a much smaller scale. So my no vote was mostly about the process.
Okay, thank you, and that's very fair. Thank you so much. If I didn't know any better, and I know you are my pick, I would have thought your name was Brenda Jones, but it is Lauren Hood. So, and I know I'm one also that like to see the process and see what's going on before I actually vote so much yes in favor. Ellie, I know you have to go. Is there anything you would like to add before you leave?
Just want to thank you again for giving me the opportunity to join this and for all your leadership, and we're very appreciative.
Thank you. And I want to also thank you for your willingness to come on to this call. I do know that you are probably very busy these days, but we called you at the last minute and you did agree to come on. And so I just want to say thank you for your willingness, for working with everyone, working with me. And I know sometimes it's not always easy working with me, but I just want to say thank you for your willingness in talking to people and working with people along the process in doing this project. So again, thank you. I look forward to having even more conversations with you. I know we do have a good working relationship as we've worked on other projects together. And I know that there has been many projects that you've given commitments to, and you have lived up to your commitments. And I do want to publicly say that. And so I do appreciate that. I just want to also say one other thing is that one of the things that's important to me, and it's very important to me that we get things in writing, because that's just so important to me, because of, as I see, COVID-19 has touched me so much till we often take so much for granted. Lord knows I never want anything to happen to you. And I know that if you give your word on something, I can pretty much take it to the bank, because that's what you have done in the past when I have worked with you. But these days, with the things that's happening, to not have something in writing, that means that you're going to have to go through again with someone else with what you committed to one other person. And so it is not my commitment of saying I want something in writing for jobs is not something against Ellie Torgo, but it is something for the community and for the constituents that I represent, and learning from some of the things that I have learned in the 15 years that I have been on council. So thank you again for your willingness, and thank you for working alongside with me through all of the other projects that we have worked on together. I think there will be more that we'll find that we agree on than we disagree on, but I truly hope that you can continue to talk to Amazon and those that are working with this project to persuade them to come up with something in writing for Detroiters and for the community in the city of Detroit. For the constituents in the city of Detroit, to say that we have no problem putting in writing to guarantee you a certain percentage of jobs. I'm praying on that every day, and I'm hoping that that will happen, because I do know that Nicole Sherrod Freeman does have the ability to place the people from this community in those jobs, and to assure that they do the job that they need to do. And that is one of my strong sticking points that I hold on to extremely tight for the constituents in this community. So again, thank you so much for your time. I do know that you have to go, and I am sorry that you will not be here, but I do look forward to other conversations with you. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the kind words. And we really do appreciate your leadership on the council and the community, and thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you. Miss Wesley, did you have anything for Ellie? Because he does have to leave. And I know you have Facebook.
We do have a few questions.
Can they be answered by someone other than Ellie Torgo, the developer?
It says, is Amazon actually purchasing the property, or is another company purchasing the land, then leasing it to Amazon?
So I think Mr. Jemison can answer that. But I just thought about one question before you answer that, before you leave, Ellie. Do you know what other type of facilities have been around the other Amazon properties that they have? And I'm thinking about other jobs to come in that area when they have had that much space.
That's a very good question. A lot of it has to do with the supply. So, a lot of times they have, as Nicole's working on this entrepreneurial opportunities where there's independent delivery services that work with Amazon. So sometimes we'll see those facilities around them, and those type of supply facilities that supply into the Amazon. But I think on this site, besides that opportunity, I think it's a great location, and there'll be interest from a lot of users for this site.
Okay, thank you. I know you have to go. It's 3:03 and you have a 3:05. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Mr. Jemison?
Yes.
Did you need her to repeat that question?
Excuse me, Madam President, Ray Diggs here. I can answer the question. So the property will be purchased through a joint venture between Sterling Group and Hillwood Development. Amazon will serve as a tenant on the property for a facility located on the southeastern portion of the property on about 78 acres.
Okay. Miss Wesley, and let me say that I hope you all can stay. I am going to stay past 3. I know we got started a little late, and I do want to. I see 11 participants' hands raised thus far. If you can cut it off there so that we can get those questions answered and we can get off in a timely manner. I know my colleague, Roy McAllister said he was going to try to join us, and I don't know if he is in with us, but if we can go to, and I'm going to give you both. I see your hand, Ms. Phillips, and I see your hand, Mr. Hamer, but I do want to get these questions answered because they have been on for a while. So I do want to try to get those questions answered, and I'm going to come back to you guys in the closing comments. So thank you. Ms. Wesley?
Yes, first caller is 856. You are unmuted.
856.
Yes, I am pleased to hear that Ms. Hood and Ms. Jones have very significant doubts. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Sorry. Okay. That they expressed their concerns because I have attended a few meetings via phone, and Amazon case has been stated very vaguely about the jobs. Very obvious that they are not going to make a really serious commitment to me. Everything speaks to that, and there is, as Ms. Hood pointed out, nothing in place to check to see how long-lasting and those jobs are, and a follow-up. But in general, I believe that this project is an incredible mistake, much, much greater than selling the streetcars. Because of its borderline strategic position and invitation to the city, and we are going to have one of the most heavy carbon footprint corporations there on 78 acres. And isn't it strange that they have no idea how many trucks would come? Much better use could be made of that property that would actually put Detroit as a model city. I mean, I have a view along with the Meta Expo plan, which could really enliven this city and bring so many more jobs. You know, Amazon has closed many small businesses. Their very business has been to wipe out our small businesses. So sure, people need jobs, but Amazon can move elsewhere in the city and people can still get there. There is a lot of vacant land that is already industrially zoned, and we do not need that pollution along our border. But I propose an actual farm, an organic farm for the future, and an agricultural campus with an MSU. They actually have a partnership with Detroit on the Brightmoor area right now and constructed a building. A campus,
I'm going to ask
a
if you can
restaurant.
wrap it up for me because I have quite a few people that are waiting. Miss Wesley, if you can let her wrap it up for me, please.
Okay. Caller 856, if you could go ahead and wrap your comments up.
Yes, just very quickly. Also, we could have a no motor vehicle space like Mackinac Island of 10 acres, some historic homes, gardens. We could have a school of drama run by Wayne State, and this would bring all the people from the suburbs together and into Detroit, and shuttle buses to take them, because the parking would be great without Amazon. They could shuttle down to Midtown and downtown, and Detroit would be booming.
I'm gonna have to go to the next person. Thank you so much.
Our next caller is JW.
JW? You are muted, JW.
Oh, hello? Sorry. Can you hear me now? I couldn't hear the last of what was just said. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You can move with your comment or your question.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to say this shouldn't be moving forward, period, because of the inadequacy of the process. I agree with Commissioner Hood. First of all, it is not in any way okay to take a tally about the pros and the cons based on the meetings that the one meeting that I forget how long that went, then the other one went really late. There were plenty of people who still had questions. So it's not fair to assess the pros and the cons when people didn't have enough information. And the other thing is Miss Tandy only reached out to people in District 2. And this isn't just any old commercial piece of property. It's a regional park. Everyone in the city should have been reached out to about this. And, and the appraisal was inadequate. Let me put these in questions. Will you restart community engagement and reach out to everybody, not just District 2 or real close by, because this is a regional park? You want us to give up regional park for what? And then number two, has anybody here actually read the appraisal? The appraisal is inadequate because it counts the historic buildings as a liability to be demolished. That is completely inappropriate. There are parts of the development site we don't even know what's there, what they want to plan there. That should also be put before us before you measure public support pro and against. The transit system, I ride the Woodward busing up there. That's going to mess up my rides. We were never consulted. So let me just wrap on this. I must say, and I don't, Mr. Jameson's word, he said stuff before he didn't follow through on. And so anyway, I have just never seen a city that treats its citizens so poorly and with such disrespect and ramming things through on the rocket docket. I mean, these guys look like they were giddy getting a Detroit blue light special.
Joanne,
of course, that property is worth more. I'm going to wrap it up, but will you do another appraisal? That cannot be an adequate appraisal. And please don't disrespect the rest of the people. That's a regional park. Don't sell us out for a few jobs.
Thank you. Thank you, JW. I'm going to go to the next caller.
Josh Bacon.
Josh Bacon.
Can you hear me?
Unmuted.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Okay. Can you hear me? Am I coming through?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Excellent. I'd first like to start off by saying that I'm once again disappointed to see that the actual community organizations from the impact area have been excluded from the front table on this conversation, has been relegated once again to the comment section. This happened before at CPC, where the letter from the State Fair Development Coalition was read, where all the support letters from the actual neighbors were ignored. And I don't know how we get a seat at the table, but unfortunately we have been cast off to the audience once again. And I would like to say that that's extra distressing because the State Fair Development Coalition has showed themselves to not only be in league with the development of Meta Expo, but also when speculators and developers in my area that are sitting on property like North Shore and Ralston projects. So I don't feel like they adequately represent the overall project from my neighborhood's perspective. I would also like to state that everyone keeps bringing up that this is a regional park. This has not been a regional park to the neighbors for a very long time. It has been a parking lot for Chrysler. It has been a train depot for CN. It has been developed, partly already given away to what was Magic Plus development. So it has not been a regional park to those of us who look at it every day for a very long time. Also, the people bring up the bus issues, but these same people who bring up the bus and the pollution issues aren't willing to remove bus traffic that goes to that current transit center that runs 15 feet from my front door and my children, where I would gladly trade that bus traffic spewing diesel smoke from in front of my house to the transit center, to Amazon for my neighborhood, not just for myself, but my neighbors all together. We also carry the burden of all the out of service bus traffic on our road. So I
Josh,
would ask that you, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, can you wrap it up, if you will?
Once again, I would state that it's, the Hammers have gotten plenty of time, and once again, a community member gets very little. I hope that you support a TIF or community fund to support the actually impacted neighbors, and that I would once again state that both Hillwood, Sterling, the mayor's office, and both D2 and D3 councilmen have been interacting with their neighborhood and listening and bringing to the table the things that we ask for.
Thank you.
Next caller is Larry Donald.
Larry Donald. Hello.
Yes.
You are unmuted.
Yeah.
And Mr. Donald, because for the sake of time, for the rest of our callers, we apologize, but we'll have to limit your time to 1 minute.
Ms. Wesley, I'm going to handle that portion. Thank you. Okay. You are unmuted, Mr. Donald, Mr. Larry Donald. Thank you.
Okay. I'll be as brief as possible. And my concern is with bus riders. And irrespective as to what people say, we have not been consulted, and we really would like to have a health assessment done for bus riders, because they say 30,000, but in that week's time, that's here and now. We're talking about 2022 when things are likely to be back to normal, which indicates that there would be a significant increase in the number of people coming through there, and they're people of color. And I want to know who's going to do the health assessment. When are we as bus riders going to be included in the process, since we will be significantly impacted by the air quality?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jemison, can you comment on that, please?
So we have committed to do a health assessment that tells us the air quality levels, for example, today, and what they're projected to be. And then we've also committed to have a health air quality assessment done after phase 1 is done, so that community members know, have good information for potential future phases that may go through zoning or other approvals. It's my understanding that Mikkel Oglesby, who runs DDOT, does have the intent to host community meetings about the transit center. So I think between the health assessment we've already committed to and the meetings that Mr. Oglesby is going to do, that we will have an occasion for your input to be registered and heard.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Larry Donald. Ms. Wesley, can we go to the next caller, please?
Caller 806.
Caller 806. Caller 806. Caller 806. You are unmuted. Caller 806.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, this is Councilman Roy McAllister Jr. And Madam President, I'm like yourself, I'm down here and I'm having problems with getting on Zoom. But yes, I have been, as I stated, I will be joining you with this. Unfortunately, I have not. Just want to make a couple of comments because I know there are others there. Regarding the community engagement, I think Mr. Josh Bacon, and also on the other side, east of that, is Mr. Thurman Lagan. They have both been involved, and they have particularly felt isolated regarding everything that the State Fair Development Coalition has been involved in. And myself and Member Benson has reached out to them, not only to them, but also to the community. as Kim Tandy has stated, we have been involved in community meetings with that area. Regarding the young lady that called in and regarding the Meta Expo, as many know that I work with a State Fair Development Coalition and have presented issues regarding the Meta Expo, but also want to bring out that last year, my office brought in several investors and financial backers and allowed Meta Expo to do a presentation to them. And nobody to this date has approached the Meta Expo. It is a good ideal that they're having, but nobody has really stated that they would participate as far as investing, as far as putting money into that. So I just wanted to say that regarding the appraisal on that, I know that the State Fair Development Coalition is doing a appraisal review and still waiting. Hello?
You're still there, Member McAllister.
Okay, still waiting for that appraisal to be bought out by that. As Arthur Jemison stated that Director Oglesby is going to do a public hearing regarding the buses for that area. So we, my office, myself, Member Benson, Kim Tandy have been very much engaged in that. And as one of the callers said, well, it's a citywide. Well, as we well know that the State Fair Development Coalition did not also go out citywide with this. So, we got to look at everything, and I am listening to everyone. As Kim Tandy has stated, we have had several meetings with them, everybody, regarding the impact of this, as well as I've had one-on-one meetings, even more so since this process in with the State Fair Development. I am working on a resolution to be presented. And I think Mr. Arthur Jemison knows that I'm getting ready to present him, and is saying some of the same things that have been addressed and concerned here, not only at this meeting, but previous meetings. So I am listening, and I am speaking to everyone regarding this and putting something in writing as a resolution for not only this, but the other two phases. And as you well know, Madam President, if this does go through and is approved, those other phases are going to have to come through council anyway as we go forward regarding Sterling Group and Hillswood. So I just wanted to bring that out, Madam President. I don't want to take no more time. I want the other callers to call in with their concerns and their questions. So thank you so very much. But I am here with you.
Thank you, Member McAllister. If you all can leave Member McAllister on, please. Thank you, so that he can hear all the comments and he can hear everything. Thank you. I'm going to move on to our next caller. We still have about 5 more hands that were raised before I said it was the last caller. I know we're going to start losing people that we have here because they have other meetings that are scheduled. If we can move to our next caller, please.
Nat Norek.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Hey, thanks for taking the time. So as someone with background in city planning and transportation issues, sort of the biggest issue for me here is this question of relocating the transit depot. And I just wanted to say that, the issue of the city first saying that they wanted to relocate the transit center because of bus traffic being heavier along 8 Mile, and how that actually ignores the heavy bus traffic on Woodward, which is vital for the connectivity of the Woodward corridor, which is an extremely important corridor in our region, being very densely populated, important for getting people to and from points. I think that's going to be a key, leaving the transit center accessible directly from Woodward. And I'd also like to point out that the issue of historic preservation, given that the developer would hypothetically be paying for a multi-million-dollar demolition, seems like a really bad value proposition. I don't really have any illusions about this project. I feel like it's probably going to go through, but I'd really love to see, I think it's just a question of sitting down with the developer and stakeholders and saying, here are some alternatives for development, and this is what it could look like, and demonstrating to Detroiters and to stakeholders that the demolition is not you know, it's a pretty bad value proposition, and there are better alternatives for how we could, you know, preserve those structures and improve the transit connectivity. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
The next caller is 500.
Good afternoon. 500, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Diane Patterson. I live in District 1, so I'm not right in the thick of things. But I'd like to make a comment that when all is said and done, this is still a warehouse. And I vote for better architecture and design features. While I support the jobs and businesses, I personally feel that Detroiters get shortchanged versus suburban stakeholders with regard to bringing job opportunities and business locations to the city. That being said, I guess I'd like to know, what is the purchase agreement, let's say, that Livonia has with Amazon in regard to including issues of environment, landscaping, traffic, setback areas, air quality, and beautification? Is there something in their contracts that Detroit is not getting in our purchase agreement? I don't have, I think the jobs are important, and I think Amazon is, it will provide things that the city needs. I have issues with historic preservation in some of the buildings too. I'm really a proponent for a warehouse looking something a little bit more than a big box. But I do tentatively support this project. I just would like to see more in conjunction, I guess, with other cities, and what has anyone looked at other purchase agreements from Amazon? Can they look at them just to make sure we're not being shortchanged? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Diggs, did you all have an opportunity to look at any of the other agreements, or know what is in any of the other agreements of any of the other cities?
Thank you for the question, Madam President. I think, Mr. Jemison alluded to this earlier. I think when you look at the agreement that we struck with the developer, right? I want to emphasize that point, because usually these agreements are with the developer. What you find is that our deal is better in a lot of ways, and what I mean by that is, as Mr. Jemison noted, all of those other agreements include public subsidies. Our deal doesn't. With regard to sort of design elements or development programming, I think our process has involved quite a bit of public engagement with regard to any sort of particular agreement terms. I can't speak to that, because quite frankly, I don't think that's the sort of thing that is customarily included in the process. I think when you look at things like public subsidies and purchase price, right? I think the deal that we struck is significantly better than what we've seen in the region.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Wesley?
Next caller is caller 648.
Caller 648. Good afternoon, caller 648. You are unmuted.
Good afternoon, Madam President. My name is Thurman Lagan. I'm the Vice President of Keep It Clean Block Club. We are just east of the State Fairground proposed site. And I also have the the President of the Block Club here with me, which would also like to make a comment after I am done. I'd like to say thank you to City Council and to the Mayor's administration for working with us in our community and providing not only proposed beautification treatments, but as well as a safe environment for the community that has been long standing here and desperately waiting for development to come to this area that could improve the neighborhoods, the quality of life, and a place for kids to interact, like playgrounds. So, this is a game changer for these communities. And many of the seniors that are here, they haven't they haven't got much longer to be with us. A lot of them are in their 80s, and they want to see something done with their property, with the property at the fairgrounds, rather than it be a parking lot or a place where we stage shipping containers that are also being ran by equipment night and day, releasing carbon into the atmosphere. So, it's quite selfish if we don't consider the jobs that could come from this location, as well as the communities around it that would benefit from this development, and which no other development has proposed or included the communities to the east or the south, including the Meta Expo. There was very little engagement in our community throughout that process, although it was a great idea. And it's unfortunate that there weren't any developers that would support it. But again, I think this is a time to put aside our differences and let's be unselfish in the process of providing Detroiters, and quite frankly, everyone in this region that deserves a job in this economy that we've lost due to COVID-19. The kids have lost spaces to interact and entertain themselves. So let's not be selfish in this process. We can get through this, and each stage has a process, and how we're putting one thing before the next, we need to go through the processes accordingly. I am in full support of this project that the developers have proposed and that the city has been working on diligently with the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to just comment and say that my concern is not having anything in writing for Detroit residents. And that is a big concern that I have, is that there will be 1,200 jobs and possibly more, but there is nothing in writing that says that those 1,200 jobs, or either any percentage of those 1,200 jobs, will go to Detroit residents. And that is a serious concern that I have, and not actually having something in writing that is minus the agreement that we have right now. There's nothing in writing for Detroiters for those jobs. Ms. Wesley?
Next caller is Sam Butler.
Mr. Butler?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Great. Thanks for the time. My question is about jobs, and Council President Jones, I just want to thank you for your leadership on pushing this issue and making sure that jobs are reserved for Detroiters, both on the construction and post-construction side. I think a percentage of hires on the permanent job side would be fantastic. But I have a quick question for Ms. Sherrod-Freeman. I think it's fantastic that you are working with Amazon to try and define what collaboration means, and even moving it from collaboration to partnership. And I think it's great that they're interested in your database of Detroiters. And I think I've heard you say that you have applications ready to go. Have you asked Amazon if they're willing to at least look at those Detroit applications first?
So at this, I'm sorry, I didn't even know you was there, Nicole Sherrod-Freeman. I'm gonna let you respond to that. Thank you. I didn't even know you were still there. Go ahead.
I'm not leaving your meeting early, Council President.
Okay.
And I want to compliment everything you're doing, Ms. Sherrod-Freeman. I do. You're doing a great job.
Thank you for your call and your question, Mr. Butler. We are in conversation directly with Amazon about what they're willing to commit to. I will tell you, I think there are a few of us on this call who see the world differently, because I do not believe Detroiters need a guarantee of jobs, because I know firsthand what Detroiters can do when they have an opportunity and when they have a chance. So I know there are folks on this call who feel differently. I respect that, but I'd be doing Detroiters a disservice if I wasn't clear on that front. And the second thing I want to say to your point, Mr. Butler, is there was an earlier caller who said, they don't see any evidence of Amazon making a good faith effort. And the caller didn't use those words exactly, but that's what it meant. And I want to be clear that nothing could be further from the truth. So I watched when Amazon came to Shelby Township and when Amazon went to Romulus. and when Amazon set up in Livonia. And I know because I was in a seat, much like the workforce development directors in those cities, I watched as Amazon didn't have any conversation with them at all. They never talked to any of those workforce directors about collaboration or a partnership or first consideration or how many jobs there were or when they were coming or even what the requirements were. So I just want to share with the interested stakeholders on this call that the fact that Amazon is talking directly to us is a really big deal. And I know you see it as a, well, as well they should when they're buying property in Detroit and they're coming into our community. And I agree with you, but I want to share with you that's not how they have behaved in other cities. They are already behaving differently with us now. And I think we ought to see that as an indication of the first step of an indication of them being an organization that's true to its word.
Thank you, Ms. Nicole Sherrod Freeman. Ms. Wesley?
The next caller is Claire Noack Boyd.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You are muted. Good afternoon. Yes.
Good deal. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. The joys of Zoom. Yeah, hello. Thanks so much for taking the time to hear from us, especially above and beyond 3 p.m. and to convene this whole thing. I'm really glad to hear there's a commitment to have hearings on the transit center. I know there was one, but it was really high level and didn't have a lot of details yet. And I hope there will be for that some on the ground outreach to riders who currently use the Fairgrounds Transit Center, who will be most impacted by this. I also just want to uplift preservation concerns as someone who used to staff a planning commission and evaluate site plans for a living. When I look at this, there's a lot of spec space, drainage and retention, parking, things they're still figuring out. There's a lot of room to make multiple things happen, including reuse of the National Register buildings on the site, which are just, important to our whole region. Lastly, I'm really glad to hear people working towards getting commitments on hiring Detroiters and specifically kind of what that would look like and how it would work. Besides the quantity of jobs, I'm also concerned about the quality. I know there's benefits and everything. I've heard, that couple of positive anecdotes, but I've also heard some pretty concerning stories about practices at the fulfillment center in Romulus. We're at the point in the process where we have an opportunity to hammer out agreements now and make sure both that Detroiters get the jobs and that they're safe when they actually get them. So that's all. Thanks again for taking the time.
Thank you. I want to say, I believe Ms. Boyd was the last caller that we had prior to me cutting off the calls, and we have went 40 minutes past, a few minutes on my behalf because I was having a problem getting in, and I do know other people have other commitments, as I do have a 4 o'clock meeting as well. I do want to give an opportunity for the Facebook calls responses, and then also to give my guests an opportunity for their closing remarks. So I'm going to stop the callers now. Ms. Wesley, do you have Facebook caller questions?
Yes, I have 3. 2 from Cecilia Dillard. One is, what training programs have been implemented to get Detroiters prepared to qualify for these jobs?
Nicole Sherrod Freeman.
Thank you, Madam President. So the good news is that the Amazon jobs don't require experience. So what Detroit at Work does for residents every day, online, by paper, and at all the Detroit at Work career centers in the neighborhood is what Detroiters need to get ready. It's just refreshers on the basics of working in teams and problem solving and critical thinking and conflict management and all those things. Those are in the normal course of what we help Detroiters brush up on before they get back into the workplace. And that is going to be sufficient for Amazon because they are no experience required jobs.
And then the other question from Cecilia Dillard is $15, or her comment, $15 an hour Amazon jobs are nice, but it would be wonderful to train Detroiters to work for the developers that are building the facility. And then we had, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam President. I would just say all of that is true, and the workforce training funds that the developer has already agreed to pay into if they don't meet their requirements, those are the funds that go to train Detroiters so that they are ready for these kinds of opportunities, for the construction and the skilled trades opportunities.
Okay, and then our last question is from Marguerite Maddox. She says, and where will the temporary transit center be if we Detroiters go with this? And people who take transit every day will be exposed to either walking, biking, or passing through dust and other fumes.
Mr. Diggs, can you respond to that, please?
Yes,
I don't. Temporary transit center location.
Sorry, thank you, Madam President. To respond to the question, the plans, and I'll really defer to Michael and his transit team on this. But the way that the plans are currently structured, the current transit hub will not be decommissioned until the new transit center project is complete. But again, I defer to the transit team on these sorts of questions generally.
Okay, and we did invite the transit director on the call, but unfortunately he was not available to attend the call today due to other scheduling conflicts. So perhaps we will be able to get him available, or you can tune into a council session, or I don't know if they're coming back before the City Planning Commission, but I do know that they probably will come before a council session before it is over with. Ms. Wesley?
Member McAllister had his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry, Member McAllister.
Thank you, Madam President, and I'm not going to be long. One of the things that that was of interest in that email was regarding the building of both the transit and the distribution center, which is phase 1. We have had the Wayne County Trade Alliance. They have been involved in this. I believe Rick Pruse who is the president, has spoken about this, and they are very encouraged, as well as we have been working with the minority contractors who are very encouraged, and they are looking not only in the phase 1 to get and receive these contracts, but also to hire Detroiters. So I just wanted to cover that. So in correlation, not only working with Executive Director Nicole Sherrod Freeman, we are also working with the laborers as well as the contractors, minority contractors, Detroit contractors, businesses, to also be involved in these phases of this. So I just wanted to put that out there, Madam President.
Thank you, Member McAllister. And yeah, I think it is important that the trades are involved in one of the things that I was very much adamant about was that the developers talk to the trades, because also often we have projects come in and then after the fact I'm hearing from the trades, and I wanted to make sure and to assure that the trades were involved in this, and they have had deep conversations with the trades and have committed to doing things with the trades and assuring that the trades in the city of Detroit will have their opportunity as well. And so that was one thing that was very important to me, but it's still very important to me that $15 jobs that you don't have to have specific experience for, that you are able as a Detroiter to go into area that is prime land and be able to get one of those jobs. And I do say that's prime land. And I just do not like, and I feel that it is, if you are not on mute, I'm asking that you go on mute. I do feel that it is a little disrespectful to not have jobs for Detroiters who are in an area or commit to having jobs. And again, it is nothing against Nicole Sherrod Freeman, because I have a lot of faith in her. I have faith in the developers whom I have worked with, whom not ever told me they were going to do something that they did not do. But lo and behold, there is nothing better than something in writing that will outlive Nicole Sherrod Freeman, if that location is still there, that will outlive Brenda Jones, that will outlive many people if that location is still there. But there will be jobs, and it will be in writing for Detroiters who will be here for years to come. And that is just so important to me. Business is business. And I always say, my dollar bill says, "In God we trust." And that's who I trust. I trust God, and I trust the instinct that He gives me to do the job that I took the oath to do for the people in my constituents in the city of Detroit. And that is to ensure that there are jobs that are available to them. That is important to me. That will remain important to me throughout my tenure in the city of Detroit as a city council member. It was an oath that I took, that I would do the best that I can, and I am going to do the best that I can for the constituents in the city of Detroit who are facing unemployment at a high rate right now, and for many of our retirees who have lost a lot during these times of bankruptcy. And then I also do not want to set a precedent for any business to think that they can come in and disrespect the citizens in the city of Detroit by not guaranteeing a percentage of jobs to Detroiters. I don't want to set that precedent for anyone. And I believe that once you start doing it, you have to continue to do it. And, I've had promises made that were not kept, although this developer has kept the promises that they have made to me, but I've had them made from other people. And they, my mom always taught me one thing, and that is, if you do the same thing the same way, expect to get the same results. And I do not want to get some of the results that I've seen in the past. And so I just would like to see something in writing. I'm going to give an opportunity to Mr. Hammer to add his closing remarks, because his hand has been up for quite some time, reminding everyone that we have gone over 47 minutes past 3. So please be very brief with your closing comments. Mr. Hammer.
Thank you again, Madam President. And I would be tempted to spend the little bit of time that I have to fend off the distortions about the work of the State Fairground Development Coalition. It's very sad to hear that this would be a distraction from the actual issue that you're going to have to vote for or vote on, and that's the question of the development. I do want to make a comment. I know that I'm speaking to a good union sister that knows all about negotiated agreements when I talk to you, Madam President Jones. I myself am a union negotiator. I negotiated with General Motors for over 20 years. And I know the difference between the good faith, comment, or the good faith offline discussion and what it means to have something in writing. And I just want to say I fully support your call on employment for Detroiters, that has to be in writing, as are the other concerns that we've raised regarding environmental questions, regarding the transit center. These are, we don't need the wink winks, because after today, there'll be somebody else in management that'll say, "Oh, I wasn't party to that. I don't know anything about it." We need it in writing. And I really appreciate the stand that you've taken for 51% Detroit's jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hammer. I did see your hand up as well, Ms. Phillips, at one point.
Thank you. So thank you so much again for hosting this forum, for allowing us to participate and for standing strong for Detroiters on jobs. So thank you again very much, Madam President. And my closing comments, just briefly, I wanted to highlight, there's been a lot of talk about the developer not requesting tax incentives. At this time, another interesting piece in the purchase agreement, it only states that the purchaser will not request tax incentives. It doesn't say anything about tenants. It doesn't say anything about corporations. The purchaser would be a joint venture operation. So it doesn't say anything about standalone corporations, and it doesn't say anything about incentives. It doesn't say anything about them not requesting brownfield credits or incentives from the state, which still come out of the Detroit pot. It's silent as to that. And I would suspect that they would take advantage of those omissions that are conveniently not there, not in the purchase agreement. So I think it's a little bit disingenuous to put forth. They're not asking for incentives. They're not asking for the incentives. One name entity is contractually bound to not request incentives. It doesn't say anything about tenants or state incentives. So I think that's another aspect that we need to be mindful of in negotiating this deal and standing up for Detroiters' value. And I'm proud to be a part of this coalition that will continue to stand up for Detroiters' jobs and health and safety in the neighborhood. And we should not be asked to compromise on those issues. They're very basic human needs, human rights, and concerns. And it's really not fair for individuals to put community residents and taxpayers in the position of choosing between maybe you might get a job in your health and safety. Those are not fair choices. Our negotiation team, the administration, I believe, can advocate stronger on that position. And we certainly need to require accountability from the developer and the prospective tenants and holding up their end of the deal in writing.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. And Ms. Hamer, did you want to add anything? Can't hear you. Can I hear you? Can you unmute yourself? Okay.
I do appreciate the opportunity to discuss the issues here. I just want to add that in the 11 years that the coalition has been in existence, we have organized citywide, at one time state, because the land did belong to the state. It's only been Detroit's public land for less than 2 years. And we will continue to go into the communities with the forums and the public meetings that we've conducted in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We have a golden opportunity here. We have 140 taxpayer-owned acres. They are prime for development. Let's do diligence. Let's do our diligence thoroughly. And let's create a development that will set the city of Detroit apart. Let's make sure that all is put in writing, and let's make sure that Detroiters receive the benefit from the sale of the land that they own. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. My city planning commissioner, vice chair of the commission, Ms. Lauren Hood.
Thank you, Council Pres. I just want us to engage in more critical thinking. I think there is a Detroit of old that used to shuffle around like a Sambo to get corporations to look at us. We are not that anymore. So I don't understand why Amazon comes calling and we're contorting ourselves to fit into what they want to offer us. I think we deserve more than that. And as a city, we deserve more than that, than throwing a bunch of folks in a warehouse on a chance that they might get a $15 an hour job. Like, then what? Are there opportunities for advancement? Or are we just settling for throwing folks in a warehouse at $15 an hour? I think people can do more than that. People have aspirations. And certainly a corporation that's run by somebody who's on track to be a trillionaire can afford to accommodate people and their aspirations. So I just want us to do some more critical thinking when we examine these kinds of applications. It might look sexy, you know, on the surface, but it all warrants more critical analysis. So I hope more for Detroiters in this post-Floyd world where people are using words like reparations. I hope more for Black people, like more than throwing people in a warehouse at $15 an hour. We deserve better, more. And I know it's there and we can get it. So let's go for it.
Thank you. Mr. Diggs.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't have much to say. I just want to thank you for having me here today to answer questions from community members and from your office. And I look forward to working with your office as we try to get this deal over the finish line going forward.
Thank you. Miss Tandy.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate you all having this. I really just briefly want to say that there was a comment made that we just did District 2, but that's absolutely not true. Our meetings actually spread out District 2 and District 3. We started small in those neighborhoods because those neighborhoods are the neighborhoods that have not had a say-so and have not been part of a lot of these discussions in the past. And we felt that they needed to have some of those conversations. However, all of our virtual meetings were publicized and put out citywide, and we're invited for citywide because this is a city piece of property. And so we wanted to make sure that they were all included. And we have heard a lot. And while I don't think that the end all to be all is a $15 an hour job, but it is a beginning. And for many of those residents that live in that community, $15 an hour allows them to keep their house and allows them to stay in their house and allows them to get some opportunities that can be put on a resume for them to do more. And Amazon does offer more. And so there are other opportunities. And then there's also other opportunities on that site for other development that they can grow into. And we've got to start from somewhere. And it's not a Sambo dance. It's not allowing people to come in and tell us things, but it is an opportunity for us to get some Detroiters some opportunities. And I think that we really work with them. And Amazon is and it's also a company for the future. Those are some of the things that we need to have, and we need to have it inside our city, not where our residents have to travel outside. And that's what we've heard from our residents. And so we need to think about all of those things as well. So, but I want to thank you for the opportunity and thank you for allowing us to be here and have this discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Tandy. Ms. Nicole Sherrod-Freeman.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for hosting this event. Thank you for the opportunity to have this real and thoughtful and passionate conversation with the other panelists, all of the other panelists on this call. It's important dialogue and I appreciate being part of it. I'm going to say two things in closing. First, I hear you, Madam President, loud and clear when you say you need some sort of greater indication from Amazon that they have a commitment. I see things differently with regard to whether it's a guaranteed number of jobs or whether it is a process. But I want you to know, and Commissioner Hood, I want you to know, because I heard you, that what you're asking for is a level of commitment that you have not yet seen. I don't know what that looks like, but I want you to know that I'm off pursuing it. With all speed and all diligence, I want you to know that I am off talking to Amazon, trying to get a commitment that you'll feel good about and that Detroiters will feel good about. And for me, having Detroiters feel good about it doesn't mean they're being guaranteed a job. It means they have the promise of an opportunity. So we may see that differently, but I know that in the end, all of us on this call want the same thing. I also want to recognize, Commissioner Hood, what you said about Detroiters are better than a $15 an hour job. And you're right about that. And Kim Tandy is right too. So I look in the faces of a lot of Detroiters who lost their $11 an hour job in the suburbs and the opportunity for a $15 an hour job, and that's before shift differential and overtime in the city, is a really big deal. And I got to tell you, I'm going to double down on what Council President said, but with a slight twist. Jobs matter in Detroit. jobs matter most when they are in Detroit. I got a much better chance of getting Detroiters into those jobs when they are in Detroit than I do when they're someplace else. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much. I just want to take again the opportunity to apologize to you all. This is the first time I've done a live from the table and you have not been able to see me. So I do apologize, but it was so important to me that we moved ahead as opposed to me continuing to deal with the technical difficulties, which I am about to call the city to try to get straightened out. But it was important that we moved ahead with this meeting. You cannot see me, but you can hear me, and I am very passionate about wanting something in writing for Detroiters because that is so very important to me. A commitment in writing will outlive anyone's words that can ever be said. And Mr. Hammer said it, that was something that I learned in my previous life, in my previous job, is always get it in writing, and you got it in writing. There's no turning back because you have that in writing, regardless to whether or not I'm there or anyone else is there. That commitment is there, and it is in black and white. And so I want to thank again all of the callers that have taken the opportunity to stay tuned for this 2-hour meeting. I want to take an opportunity to thank all the listeners who have stayed tuned for this meeting. Thank all of the Facebook watchers who have been on Facebook watching. Most definitely thank my panelists who have been here. Some who have stayed, stick and stayed. I asked you to be here for an hour. You have been here for 2 hours. So thank you so very much for your patience and your willingness to stay, all of you all. And not last, because I do have to thank my colleague, Councilmember McAllister, who is also here with us. He talked about Amazon last night in a meeting that he had that lasted for, I want to say, 3 hours. So thank you for being here with me. Also, Member McAllister, we've been together for 16 years now. And so thank you. And it's been a good 16 years, Member McAllister. Although you were not on council, we started off together and running for the seat for council, and we worked together during those 16 years and running for those seats, in those 16 years ago, running for the seat. You're there with me now. I appreciate all of the work that you do, Member McAllister. Again, to everyone, we may not always agree. Sometimes we disagree. Member McAllister, did you want to make a comment? Because I do want to give you that opportunity.
Thank you so much, Madam President, and I really appreciate it. It is always a pleasure working with you. And, you know, one of the things I just wanted to say is I am very much, Commissioner Hood stated something that was very interesting, and I'm about making sure that, you know, folks are not coming in and taking advantage of the city of Detroit. And that's one of the things that I have been working on and moving with and looking forward to. And this issue is really, to me, is about jobs, not only about jobs, but also about building up our communities, not only now, but for the future, for our kids and grandkids. The State Fairgrounds is a monument. I think it's been over something like 160 years. A lot of our future kids will not probably see that, but we want them to be able to see and have that advantage of a good quality of life and moving forward. So, Madam President, I know we're going to have some more discussions regarding this, but I just wanted to thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your conversation, as well as you coming on last night being a part of mine. So I thank you, and I thank all the panelists that is here, and all your concerns and considerations is taken into consideration. So thank you so very much, Madam President. Love you, and God bless everyone.
Thank you, Member McAllister. The Amazon State Fairgrounds development deal will be discussed again tomorrow morning in the Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee at 11 a.m. You also will have an opportunity to do public comments tomorrow, and that is the Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee. Again, we may not always agree, but it's one thing that I think all of us have in common, and that is making the best for Detroit and for those of us who live, work, and play in the city of Detroit. We may not agree with what we think is the best, but I am the one who have that vote at the seat, along with at the table, along with Councilmember McAllister. And we both took oaths to do the best that we can to represent the citizens in the city of Detroit, just as Lauren Hood took an oath on the City Planning Commission to do her job to the best of her ability. Many of you have stayed and stuck in the city of Detroit during the hard time years that we've faced in the city of Detroit. Some have left, but for those who have left, came back, for those who have stayed and remained here, I say to you, I will do my job to the best of my ability. So help me God. And that was the oath that I took. Whether you agree with me, whether or not you disagree with me, whether or not you agree with Member McAllister, whether or not you disagree with him, know that there will be times where we will agree. There will be times where we will disagree. But know that through it all, we all want the best, because I am a Detroiter. Member McAllister is a Detroiter. Lauren Hood is a Detroiter, and many people on this call and on this panelist are Detroiters. I know you are too, Miss Tandy, and I see those eyes staring dead at me. And so, like I said, you know, the unfortunate thing is that you guys can not see me, but I can see you. And I know many of you are Detroiters, and I know the Hammers have fought real hard for what's happening in their community and in the state fairgrounds area. Stick and stay for what's to come. We will see you or hear from you tomorrow at the Planning and Economic Development meeting. We will probably see and hear from you on Tuesday at the former session. And I don't know whether or not it will come to formal or whether or not it will not come to formal. But I know that regardless to what's on formal, many of you we still hear from. And so I look forward to seeing and hearing from you. So in that note, I ask you to stay safe, wear your mask, continue to wash your hands. Whether or not we agree or whether or not we disagree, I do want you to stay alive so that we can agree or so that we can disagree. Stay safe. We will talk to you at a much later time. God bless you all. God bless the city of Detroit. I do not want to leave my staff out, who works extremely hard day in and day night. And I said day night because I think that they believe midnight is part of the day when they're texting me at 2 and 3 o'clock with their great ideas on what they think we should do as a team. Thank you so much, Team Jones. I appreciate the hard work that you all also put into making Detroit a better place for all of us to live, work, and play in. And I appreciate the job that you all do. Until we meet again, stay safe. God bless you. I love you. I love you all. This will conclude this meeting. Thank you, Member McAllister. Bye-bye to all of you.